Hi, guys, and welcome back to Financially Fluent. I am your host, Jacqueline Kathure. I had a little flu, that's why my voice is not so clear. But I said to myself, I will not let the flu interfere with our learning. We have to continue learning, we have to continue improving ourselves, right? So, today's topic we are going to be tackling on financial freedom principles. Yes. And as I said earlier, I wanted us to tackle foundations of financial success in the month of March, but there was a bit of some delay somewhere, and that is why we are a little bit behind from the syllabus that I had set for us, but we are on the right path. That is the most important thing, okay? So we are still tackling foundations of financial success. Remember, I said foundation is always the most important bit of any project of any even in building a house. The foundation is usually the most important part, and that is where most of the time is taken, not even in completing the house, not in putting the roof, but in laying the foundation. So if we get our foundations right when it comes to matters of financial literacy, then the rest of it will just be smooth and easy going. Okay, so yeah, we still have about this topic and another one more topic under foundations of financial success, but let us continue. I'm sure I am loving this journey. I hope that you are also loving and learning at the same time. Okay, so as I said, today we are going to be tackling on financial freedom principles, and I'd like us to understand first of all what is financial freedom. We all know that financial freedom is that point where your passive income or your investments, they actually yield you an income that you're able to live in accordance to the lifestyle that you want. Okay, so there's a certain lifestyle that each and every one of us has or wants. Maybe you're not yet there, but you desire to live a certain kind of life. Okay, so when you talk about financial freedom, it's you being free. You're not, and you do not have any pressure. You have options. Okay, and you also have peace of mind. So financial freedom is actually whereby your passive income or your investments, they yield you a return that you are able to live on. Okay, like the return that you're getting from your passive investments, from your passive income and your investments, you're able to live off them. So when we speak about financial freedom principles, now we've said what financial freedom is. Now, what are principles? When you meet someone and they tell you, my principles is A, B, C, and D. I prefer to do this and not that. And they tell you, well, that's my principle. So, what are principles? And principles are unshakable rules or guiding values. And because we are talking about money, we say unshakable rules or guiding values that help you reach that point, that you want to reach with your finances. Okay, and some of these principles may include living below your means, investing early, avoiding bad debt. We are going to take a look at some of these principles that actually enable you to get to financial freedom. Okay, but basically, that is what principles are. So, when we are speaking about financial freedom principles, we are actually speaking about the mindset. So it starts with your mind. The mindset and money habits that guide you to a life where you have control over your finances, not the other way round. So I remember there's a video that I made, and I said, money, you're not supposed to be chasing money. Like your 1,000 shilling is ahead of you and you're behind the 1,000 shilling. You're trying to understand 1,000 bob. I cannot find 100 bob. Where did 100 bob go? I cannot find 50 shillings. Where did 50 shillings go? You're not supposed to live like that. Your 1,000 bob is supposed to be following you from behind. And how does it follow you? It follows the plan. Do you remember when we spoke about planning, the different types of plan in the previous video, where we said we have a cash flow plan, which is a budget, The cash flow plan helps you to plan between your income and your expenses. Okay, so that is how you're supposed to be with your money. Your money is supposed to follow the plan that you have laid it out for it. And you lay out a plan for your money through budgeting. You tell your 2,000 shillings you am allocating you for my electricity bill. 3,000 shillings I am allocating you for my transport. That is how you plan your money, and that is how you're supposed to actually have a control over your finances. Okay, so let me repeat this definition. Financial freedom principles, this is the mindset and money habits that guide you to a life where you have control over your finances and not the other way round. Now that we have understood what financial freedom is, we have understood what principles are, we have put them together, we have understood what financial freedom principles are. Let us look at some of these principles that actually enable you to have control over your finances. Okay, and the first two principles, I am going to take a bit of some time on the first two. They may seem common because we always speak about them every now and then, but I'd like you to be very keen, okay? Because the way I have arranged them, I have explained what the principle is, I have explained how you're supposed to heed to the principle, and if you have a challenge to actually doing what the principle is, I also have some points that I researched and I found that you as a person can use, and you'll be able to stick to these principles, okay? So let us start with the first principle. And the first principle is spend less than you earn. That is principle number one. Spend less than you earn. Okay? And how do you spend less than you earn? You spend less than you earn by first using the golden rule that we always speak about every now and then, and this is living within your means. All right, you ensure that your expenses are lower than your income. So you see, when you've gotten your income, there is supposed to be a gap between your income and your expenses. What do I mean? This is what I mean. Maybe you earn, let's go with 30,000 Kenyan shillings, okay? At the end of the month, your net salary is 30,000 bob, okay? So your expenses are supposed to be somewhere around, let's even give it around 25,000. That is a fair value. That is actually it's good, okay? So the gap that we are actually talking about is the 5,000 shillings. And what are you supposed to do with this gap? This gap is what is supposed to build you your investments. All right. So when you earn your money and you spend all your money, or even worse, you spend more than you earn, that is a very red flag when it comes to your finances, because you're actually using tomorrow's money today. And the bad thing is you will refund the tomorrow's money plus interest. So it's like you're stealing from yourself. The money that you would have used tomorrow, you're using it today, and you're going to pay it back with interest. Are you trying to see the logic here? It does, the math is not mathing, it's not adding up. Okay, so the first principle, as I said, is spending less than you earn, and you do this by living within your means. All right. So financial freedom starts by creating a gap. I said that financial freedom starts by you creating a gap between what you earn and the expenses that you incur. All right, and that gap is what we use for our investments. All right, so how do you do this? How do you actually spend less than you earn? The first thing that you have to do is track every expense for 1 month. So I want you to do an exercise, okay? I want you to find a small book, or just find a small notebook. At the end of the day, before you go to sleep, I want you to take some time, write down each and everything, even 5 shillings. If you went to work and bought juicy fruit, I want you to write down each and every amount that you have spent on that particular day. So you'll sit with your book and you will start. In the morning, I used 100 shillings to work for my transport. You'll write 100 transport. On my way to work, I ate a juicy fruit for 10 shillings. You'll write 10 shillings, juicy fruit. At lunchtime, you spent another 150 shillings for lunch. You'll write there 150 shillings, lunch. In the evening, I also used another 100 bob to get back home. That is transport from work to home. So you're going to write there 100 shillings, transport. I want you to sit, okay, and be true to yourself. Remember, you're not doing this for me. You're not doing this for your partner. You're not doing this for your friend. You're doing this for yourself, okay? So I want you to track your expenses on a daily basis for a whole month. And why am I telling you to do this? That way, when you go back and sit, you'll be able to see every day I use 10 shillings for juicy fruit and going to work. If we say 10 by 7, in a week you're using 70 shillings on juicy fruit. If we say 70 by 4 weeks, in a month you're using 280 shillings on buying juicy fruit. Whereas that 280 shillings, you can even maybe say buy a subscription for airtime for a whole month. Instead of you just using airtime without any subscription and it costs you a lot of money, you can decide that this 280 shillings for the next month, instead of me buying that juicy fruit, let me use this 280 shillings to purchase a subscription, an airtime subscription, okay? So not every subscription you're supposed to purchase every subscription. There's some subscriptions that are not necessary. But for example, when it comes to airtime, sometimes it is good for you to weigh and see. If you make a lot of phone calls, if you know that your work involves communicating a lot over the phone, you could consider subscribing to an airtime, these packages that Safaricom or Airtel usually have, and you save up a lot on that, okay? So that was number one. Track every expense for a whole month, all right? Number two, I want you to use the 50-30-10-10 rule as a guide. That is another way that you can be able to spend less than you earn. And what did we say the 50-30-10-10 rule is? 50% to your needs, 30% to your wants, 10% for your investments, and another 10% for your tithe, okay? And then number three is identify and cut unnecessary expenses. Honestly, there's some expenses that you really do not need. Right now, while you are on your journey to building wealth, there's some many things that you can sacrifice on. It's not a must for you to have everything at this point. There's some things you can forego so that maybe 5 or 10 years down the line, you'll be able to afford now all these things that you truly want, okay? And that will only happen when you have built a passive income that earns you money when you're sleeping. Okay, and that happens also when you have investments that are yielding you interest, they are yielding you returns that actually sustain your lifestyle. All right, and then number 4, I want you to set a monthly spending plan. Okay, and we have spoken about plans. This is basically a budget. We have really said so much about creating a budget, so make sure you have a budget. A budget is the first thing that will help you on your financial independence journey, okay? On your financial freedom journey, all right? So I'd like us to look at what can you do if, for example, you have used all the 4 steps that I have said. You have used the 50-30-10-10 rule. You have created a budget. You have laid out your expenses on a daily basis for a whole month, and things are not just working out. What are some of the solutions that you can try venturing? And the first solution that I have here is for you to be brutally honest with your numbers. Okay, so I said I have a little bit of a flu, so please pardon me, but I'll try my best to be as clear as possible. Okay, so the number one solution is to be brutally honest with your numbers. As I said, remember that you're not going to show your spending plan, you'll only show it to yourself, not unless if you have a financial accountability partner, someone that is enabling you in this journey of financial freedom, and you have to be accountable to them. But if you do not have a financial accountability partner, these numbers they're just for you, so that you can be able to see how are you spending your money, and the way you're spending your money, are you spending it in a wise way? So you need to be brutally honest with yourself, you need to be brutally honest with your numbers. Okay, so even when you're creating your budget, even when you're laying out your daily spending, do not leave out 5 shillings just because you think it's just 5 shillings. Remember that 9,995 needs that 5 shillings so that it can become 10,000. So every shilling of your money counts. Okay, that is the first thing. And then, number two, you need to create a bare bones budget if things are really, really tight. Now, I understand that sometimes you may do all of these things, but then you still realize that your budget is still very, very tight. Um, I do write blogs, and my blog it's called spreading love and laughter.blogspot.com. I'll leave a link in the description box. I wrote something about what a bare bones budget is and how you can be able to use one, especially if you're in debt, so that you can be able to come out of debt. But also in this scenario, you can be able to use a bare bones budget so that you're able to try and see if things will really work out, because sometimes you try to use the 50-30-10-10 rule and it doesn't work when things are really, really tight. You could try using the bare bones budget. Okay, and then number three is cut emotion driven or impulse spending. So for me personally, before, I used to, whenever I was sad, I would buy a lot of junk food. Like, and it's not, you see the junk food that is sold in the streets. You people know smochas, kebabs, samosa. Whenever I was sad, that would be my very first stop. My body would just crave for those junk foods, and it's because of the emotion that I was experiencing at that time. I was sad, and so you need to be self-aware. You need to know, does do my emotions affect how I spend my money? Some people, when they are really excited, they will just want to shop. They will go to a supermarket and just shop. And if you come and see whatever they have shopped, about 80% of those items are so unnecessary. They are things that they actually do not need. So you need to be self-aware. You need to know, do my emotions affect how I handle my finances? And if that is the case, then what are you supposed to do about it? You're supposed, if you just find a way, if having too much money near you, or if having too much money at the palm of your hands is may cause a distraction to yourself. If you have any extra money, put it somewhere. Put it in an investment where you know you'll not easily access that money. Okay? And then remember to use also the 24-hour rule. This goes along with point number 3. Use the 24-hour rule. The 24-hour rule is as waiting for 24 hours before you can purchase something. And in that, when you're giving your time that allowance of 24 hours, the excitement goes down, and you're able to think clearly. Do I need this thing now, or do I just want it? There's a difference between you wanting something and needing it immediately. Okay, so you can always use the 24-hour rule. Before you purchase something, go back, Relax for 24 hours. Ask yourself, do I really need this thing or do I just want it? If you just want it, you can forgo it and then plan for it in the future. Okay. And then number four is find, okay, before I say number four, let me say this. Sometimes you may realize that you have already cut back on your spending and your finances are still very tight. So the problem might not be that you have a spending problem. The issue might be that you have an income problem. And so number four says find creative ways to boost your income. So if you realize that your income is it's too small for it to be able to sustain you, that you cannot survive on your income, you need to find creative ways to actually boost your income. And you can do this through monetizing your talents and gifts, especially for the ladies. If you have a talent of hairdressing, that is doing hair, you can always do that over the weekends. At least strive to find one or two clients. You can start by doing a friend's hair and then take a picture of it, post it on social media. People will just bring themselves, and maybe for the first few weeks you may have to offer free services to your friends, and if they see your work is good, they'll be sure to come back, and during the second visit you'll be able to start making money. But before you, so that you can be able to get those clients, you might have to offer some few free services, or even reduce the normal market price to something lower, so that you can be able to attract clients. Also offer services such as mobile salon, whereby you can be able to, there's so many working moms that prefer to have their hairs done at the comfort of their homes, or even doing manicures and pedicures. You can do a mobile salon whereby you just walk with your comb, work with all your tools that you know you require when you're doing your hair or when you're doing your nails. Find clients, guys. There are so many side hustles outside here. It's just that, I don't know, we sometimes we don't want to think outside the box, but you need to find a way to think outside the box. If you have a talent of cooking, maybe you can make samosas. Why don't you make those samosas? Find a hot pot, put them in a hot pot. After you've come from work over the weekend, in the afternoon, hawk your samosas around the estate. Make an extra income. Okay, that is another way you can be able to do. If it's another solution to actually spending less than you earn. That is, if you tried all the four that we spoke about, it did not work, and your problem is not an spending problem but an income problem. Find a way to boost your income. All right. Also, on this point, you can also find skills. If you guys search on Skillshare or what is this app? There are so many platforms over the internet that offer free courses you can do for 3 to 6 months. Okay. In these courses, once you've learned them, maybe you can try doing web design or video editing. Okay. Find a skill that you know you can be able to learn, something that you can enjoy doing, and after you've gotten that skill, now start looking for clients. You can look for them in Upwork, in Fiverr, and if those places do not work, but most so Upwork, because I have an Upwork account, so Upwork works. You guys, I have done academic writing on Upwork. I have done SMEs SMEs optimization on Upwork. So you guys, there is money outside there. Make sure, just find a skill, find something. Go do digital marketing. You can find, nowadays we have over about 100 websites that we have over 100 websites that actually offer digital marketing courses, and these courses usually take about 3 months, and you're through, and they even come with a certificate. I personally have a certificate of digital marketing. I wish I had come with it so that I can show you. But you do that course, you take up, you be serious with it, understand it, and then companies right now, all of them are going digital. Find a company that you can work with, and do not go to one company and then put out your proposal. They say no, and then you give up. Do not give up. Okay. Remember that disruption always follows intent. Whenever you put your heart to doing something good, there is always there's always that voice that will want to make you to stop. So do not stop. Okay. Let us continue with this. And then the fifth thing that you can actually do is use cash limits by using the envelope system to divide your money. Okay. So I also spoke about the envelope system in my previous video. This is whereby you use different envelopes to portion your money or to subdivide your money. Okay. So you can take an envelope, write rent, take another envelope, write food, take another envelope, write transport. And when money depletes in one envelope, that means that spending in that category is over. So you have to be really wise with how you spend your money, because if you deplete the money for food in the envelope, in the food envelope, and you use all the money, you're halfway the month and you've finished the money, where will you get money for buying more food? So you really have to be wise with how you spend this money. Even as we're discussing about these ways, as we're discussing about these principles, you also need to use your head. Okay. You also need to learn and to understand that there's also wisdom involved in this. Okay. And then number 6 is you can always seek for accountability and support. And this is when I spoke about having a financial accountability partner. So you can have someone, explain to them what your situation is, explain to them how your situation is, and they can be able to help you. Tell them your plan. Tell them this is I earn 20,000. I want to be spending 17,000 and to invest the 3,000. Okay. And then tell them this is how I intend to make sure that I invest 3,000 every month. And your accountability partner, they should be there, and every month they should follow up on you and make sure that the plan that you said you wanted to achieve, you have achieved it. Okay. And then also another thing, when you have a problem with spending less than you earn, point number 7, remember your why. Always have a reason why when you're doing something, especially with matters regarding finance. Your reason why is what will give you that motivation to be able to push on even when things seem so difficult. So remember, why do I want to invest? Am I investing for my kids' education fund? Am I investing for do I want to create an emergency fund? Am I investing so that I can go on a vacation? Am I investing so that I can build a house? Remember your reason why. Always have, in the first place, have a reason why. And then remember what that reason why that is driving you to want to spend less than you earn so that you can be able to invest. Okay? That was principle number 1, of which we said it is spending less than you earn. So principle number 2 is avoiding consumer debt. And consumer debt, it's one we have spoken about. Consumer debt from morning to evening to I don't know. We've just spoken about consumer debt so much. Okay. And what is consumer debt? Consumer debt is you taking a debt to spend it on something that will not yield a return, or furthermore, that not even it depreciates. Okay. So let me read out to you how consumer debt is debt that is used to buy things that lose value or don't generate income. Okay. So you're buying debt to buy food, debt to buy what? Debt to buy a car, not unless if you're really using that car for a taxi. If you're using that car for a taxi, then that is That is another type of debt. That is not a consumer debt. But if you're taking a debt so that you can buy a car for the purposes of just having a car, that is a consumer debt. Okay? When you're taking a debt to buy food, when you're taking a debt to pay another debt, all this thing, the very many ways that we usually take up debts. And the debt you're taking up it is not going to yield any return. It's not going to add any value. It's just going to, whatever you're using to purchase that, the money you're taking up as a debt, whatever you're purchasing is going to lose value. Then that is consumer debt. Okay. But we need to remember that not all debts are bad. There's some debts which you can take for improvement, for growth. Like you take a debt and then you pump that money towards your business. The business will grow, and the returns you'll get from there, you'll be able to settle off your debt and still have something remaining. Okay, so we are not generalizing all debts. We are talking about consumer debt. All right. So why do we need to avoid consumer debt? And number one, that is because you remember when I said you are spending tomorrow's money today and with interest. So you're taking up the money that you would have spent tomorrow, you're spending it today, and you're actually spending it with interest. You'll have to return that money, and you'll return it with interest. Okay, point number two, you reduce your ability to save and invest. Okay, when you take up consumer debt, you're reducing your ability to save and invest, because the money that you would have used to invest, you now have to use it to pay off that debt. And then number three, you feel financially trapped, anxious, or stressed. Debt is just, I don't even know the right term to use to describe debt. It puts you in a place that is so bad that you don't know how you're going to come out of that hole that you've put yourself into. I'm speaking like this because I have an experience. The beauty about everything that I'm teaching you guys is that I have a personal experience. I have been here, and whatever I'm telling you, these are the things that I used alongside prayers, lots and lots of prayers and lots of self-affirmation. That is what I used so that I can be able to reach to a point where I can say that is what we define financial freedom. Okay? So if I was able to come out of that, then you too, you can also do that. Okay? And then another thing is, we've said that consumer debt makes you feel financially trapped, anxious, or stressed. How then do we avoid consumer debt? Okay. Number one, you have to pause on credit if you can't pay in full. You have to pause on credit if you can't pay in full. Okay. Number two, understand your needs versus your wants. There's a very thin line between your needs and your wants, and you need to know, is this a need or is this a want? Okay. And then number three, use debt only for growth and not lifestyle. So if you're taking debt for growth, then that's okay. But then after you've gotten the results, after you've gotten, maybe you pumped that money into a business, you've gotten the profits, remember to first pay off the debts so that you can start to consume your profits. Okay, you first need to clear off the debt. All right. And then number four, if you're already in debt, then make a plan on how you're going to actually reduce and finish that debt. We are going to speak something about debts in another point that I have here. Okay. And then number five, you need to build an emergency fund. Okay, I know when you are already in debt, it may seem like building an emergency fund is like taking yourself back. But no, you need to build a mini emergency fund. And what do I mean by mini emergency fund? You can start with as little money as 5,000, aim for like 5,000, and this mini emergency fund, it will help you in avoiding more debt. Okay, you can use that money for your transport, to buy food when money for food finishes. So aim to create a mini emergency fund even when you're struggling to pay off your debt. When you're trying to pay off your debt, start with as little as 5K, save it somewhere, put it aside for, and call it, this is my mini emergency fund, so that you can be able to avoid having to borrow, to keep on borrowing, so that you can be able to sustain yourself, or so that you can be able to buy basic stuff like food, like when you need transport. The mini emergency fund can actually work for you. All right, so um, let's head over to. I have spoken about 2 points, and the first one we said is spending less than you earn. Number two is avoiding consumer debt. So, the principle number three that I'd like us to look at is build multiple streams of income. Okay, and we have three types of income streams. We have the active income. This is your job or services that you offer. If you're a salonist, if yeah, this is what you do, the main thing that you do, this is your active income. Okay, and then we have passive income. Passive income is derived from freelancing. If you do freelancing job like the one we said in Upwork, in Fiverr, yeah, if you have investment somewhere and they're yielding you returns, that is your passive income. And then number three, we have business income. Okay, and this is usually from product sales, or if you have an online store, then you're also getting income from that, is known as business income. Okay, that was principle number three, that is on building multiple streams of income. And then principle number four, you need to save and invest consistently and strategically. Okay, so under this, you need to focus first of all on emergency fund. Okay, and then after you've focused on the emergency fund, you need to start building on your short-term goals. All right, planning for your short-term goals, this may include things like maybe you want to buy a certain equipment, business equipment that will help you in setting up a business somewhere. Yeah, your fees, actually fees for your kids. Those are some of the short-term goals that you need to start working on after you've worked on your emergency fund. Okay, and then number three is long-term goals. And long-term goals, this we may have building your house, planning for retirement. These are some of the long-term goals that we have. And if it is possible, I always say automate your investments. So go to your bank, speak with your fund manager, or speak with your bank representative. Let them Ask them if there is a way, before money gets to your hand, if there's a way they can be able to automate your investments. Tell them maybe you're investing somewhere and you'd like a certain amount of money to be on a monthly basis. Before you're able to access your money after you've just gotten paid, ask them if they can be able to automate your investments, such that if you're maybe saving, if you're investing 5,000 somewhere, maybe in a money market fund somewhere, you can ask them, I'd like you to take this money and deposit it somewhere in an investment that I'm investing in. Ask them if it is possible, and if it is possible, then automate your savings and your investments. Okay, and then principle number five is invest wisely and early. Remember that I said that time is your greatest ally when it comes to investing. So when you combine time and compound interest, whew, it just works magic in your investments. Okay, so you can start, maybe if you have never invested anywhere, you can start with basic low risk options, and this may involve money market funds, circles, or government bonds. Yes, actually, government bonds are, they are low risk options, and we are going to be speaking broadly on bonds and bills in the coming videos. But we all know what a money market fund is. We all know what a circle is. You can actually open a money market fund with your phone. Okay, it's as easy as that. So what you have to do is just research on the type of money market fund that you want. Go through the policies that they have. See if it aligns with your goals. Maybe if you want to save on a daily basis, there are money market funds you can invest on a daily basis. There are those that you have to do a monthly deposit, and maybe there's a minimum amount that you can be able to deposit. So just make sure that you do thorough research, do your due diligence before you can open up a money market fund and start investing with them. Also, another thing, make sure that your money market fund is regulated by the Capital Markets Authority before you can start putting your money there. Okay, and then after you've started with the small investments, you can now go to the higher risk, higher reward areas, and this may involve real estate, the rates. This may involve stocks and business ventures. Now, business venture is a high risk, high reward option, because the business it will either pick or it might decline. There are two options to this, okay? And if it declines, remember that there is capital that you've put into that business, which a business will either have profits or losses. So whenever you're starting a business, have that in mind. Even though we are hoping for profits, it can also go the other way around, okay? And then principle number 6 is obviously live below your means and upgrade slowly, okay? So you are supposed to choose simplicity, delayed gratification, and thoughtful spending. Okay, so delayed gratification is, I'm trying to, okay, let me find the best way to explain this. Delayed gratification is when you do not have to get the benefits of something right now. You can opt to hold into, so instead of you taking the extra 5,000 shillings to go buy a pair of shoes that you have, maybe the gap between your income and your expenses is 5,000 shillings, okay? So instead of you taking that 5,000 shillings and going to buy a designer bag or shoes, you decide to take that 5,000 shillings, invest it somewhere, do that consistently each and every month, and then reap the rewards 10 years down the line when your investments they're giving you income, passive income when you're asleep. That is delayed gratification. So you would have chosen to spend that 5,000 on a designer bag right now, but instead of doing that, you decide, let me put it somewhere else where it's going to add more value to me and multiply, okay? And then you'll be able to reap the benefits in the future, okay? So that is delayed gratification. And then something else, when we are speaking about living below your means, it does not mean being cheap. It just means being intentional, okay? I don't know if you guys have ever realized, do you know that the people with the most money, or the people that we perceive as being super wealthy, they do not show off. They do not wear Louis Vuitton. The top is Louis Vuitton. The belt is maybe Dior. The pants are Chanel. The shoes are, I don't know what other, Zara, blah, blah, blah. They do not do that. If you go closer to them, you will realize they do not compromise. They do not compromise. Maybe in the way, even in their dressing, they do not compromise. But they also do not overdo it. When you get close to such a person, you'll realize that the material of their fabric is different. Maybe it is silk. We know that silk, it's costly, okay? That is when you say that this person has money. But If you see them from a distance, you cannot tell. You'll just see a typical normal person, okay? But if you get close, that is when you see that the material of the clothing is very different. Their perfume is, it's not shouting, it's subtle but very nice. Okay? So that is what I mean. You do not, living below your means doesn't mean that you be cheap. Now we start seeing you in town wearing raggedy pants and I don't know what, you just look like just like that. No, 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 no. You're not supposed to be like that. When we're talking about living below your means, you just have to be intentional. Okay? You can actually go to Tumtumba and buy outfits of maybe like 100 bob, 200 bob, and the way you just pair those outfits, you look like $1 million. So even when you're speaking about living below your means, I'm not telling you to be cheap. I'm telling you to be intentional with the way you're living your life. Okay? And then principle number 7 is give generously and with a purpose. I had to include this point because it works. So the more you give, the Bible tells us it is better a hand that gives than a hand that receives. Okay? And I actually wrote here a verse, Acts chapter 20, verse 35. It is more blessed to give than to receive. Generosity opens doors. And another thing that generosity does, when you're used to giving, and when I say giving, I mean this giving wisely, okay? No, not again giving all your money and then you remain borrowing. When I speak about generosity, when you're giving your money, you also get detached from your money. That perspective of I need money, I need money, I need money, like right now, you start to, how can I explain this? You stop being yes, giving generously, it breaks the hold of money over your life. Okay, so if money had a really big hold over your money, when you have the art of giving, it breaks that hold. Okay, and how do you give? You give through your tithe and offerings. Also, you can also give by supporting others who are on their journey, by offering maybe skills and time to listen to them. If you can be able to offer support in any way, then you offer support to those people who are also on their journey. Okay, and then principle number 8 is keep learning and keep growing. Okay, so financial literacy, it's not a one-time lesson. It's not something that you are going to learn for a whole year and then you say that you're financially literate. It keeps on evolving, it keeps on changing. You need to understand what is going on in the trend, what is going on in the market, what have the times brought in terms of investments. A financial literacy is a journey that you need to take as an individual. You need to be willing to take this journey, and you need to read books, watch videos, um, just find ways that you can be able to educate yourself on finance. Okay, so what do you need to keep learning about? You need to keep learning about budgeting tools, the different budgeting tools that are there, any improvement to budgeting tools, and then investment opportunities. As I said, investments, almost each and every year, or not even year, almost each and every month we have new investments in the market. So learn about investment opportunities. Okay, learn business skills, learn money mindset and stewardship. And as I said, you can do this by reading books, follow mentors, take courses. Yeah, do take courses. Make sure that you stay informed when it comes to matters about your finance. Okay, and so with all that said and done, guys, we have finished the topic of financial freedom we've spoken about 8 principles, and make sure that If you need to go back and rewatch the video so that you can be able to fully grasp these principles, make sure you do that. But I hope as we were continuing, you were taking down some notes and learning and trying to understand everything that we spoke about. If there was a point that was not very clear to you, leave it out in the comment section. I will review it and maybe elaborate on it further. Okay, so with that said and done, guys, remember to subscribe, remember to share, to like, and yeah, let us keep learning. I am really enjoying this journey. I hope that you're also enjoying it as well. If you have any questions, make sure that you leave them out and I'll be sure to respond. If you have a topic, a special topic that you'd like us to cover, you'd like to hear more insights about it, also make sure you leave it out in the comment section and we are going to discuss about it. So until next time, I am your host, Jacqueline Mutuma. It's bye-bye for now. Bye.